Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. We're jumping back into Donella Meadows' masterpiece, Thinking in Systems. And this time, we're going beyond the traps and the leverage points to explore her incredible guidelines for how to actually live and even thrive inside the complex systems that shape our world every single day. All right, let's get into it.
So where do we start? Well, Meadows kicks things off with what she calls her 11th commandment. And wow, it's a powerful one. It's all about information. Her argument is that you can drive any system completely bonkers just by messing with its information streams. This idea is the absolute bedrock of her whole philosophy.
So why is information so important? Well, it's pretty simple, really. The people making decisions, whether that's you, a CEO, or a government leader, they just can't respond to information they don't have. Meadows believes that most of what goes wrong in our systems, from big companies to small communities, is because the information is biased, late, or just plain missing.
Now check this out, because here's a real-world example that just proves her point. Back in 1986, a U.S. law was passed that made companies report the hazardous stuff they were pumping into the environment. By 1988, that data was public. Local newspapers started printing lists, the top 10 polluters in your neighborhood. And that was it. No fines, no new regulations, nothing.
So what happened? The result was absolutely staggering. In just 2 years, nationwide chemical emissions dropped by 40%. Some companies even started making plans to cut their emissions by 90%. And this just brilliantly shows the core idea. Information itself is power. Just releasing that information allowed the whole system, the communities and the companies, to start correcting itself.
Okay, so if information is the lifeblood, then language is kind of like the veins and arteries that carry it. And this is where it gets really interesting. Meadows argues that the words we use don't just describe reality, they actually help create it.
This quote from Fred Kaufman just nails it. Our vocabulary is like a filter. If we don't have a word for something, it's really hard to even notice it, let alone do something about it. The words we pick literally structure what we're able to perceive and what we're able to do.
Think about it like this. If a society is constantly talking about productivity, it'll get really good at making stuff. But it might be super fragile when a crisis hits. On the other hand, a society that values and talks about resilience will build systems that can actually handle those shocks. The language we focus on directly shapes the world we end up living in.
And get this, Meadows saw this in her own work. She had to manually add all these systems words, like feedback, overshoot, and sustainability, to her computer spell checker. By adding these concepts to our vocabulary, we literally give ourselves new eyes to see and interact with all the complexity that's out there.
So this all leads to a really crucial point. We have to be super careful about what we choose to talk about and measure. And that brings us right to Meadows' next guideline, the huge danger of focusing on what's easy to measure instead of what's actually important.
I mean, our culture is just obsessed with numbers, isn't it? We kind of think that if something can be measured, it's more real or more valid than something that can't. And that pushes us to value quantity, how much, how many, how fast, often at the direct expense of, quality.
Meadows argues that ignoring huge forces like prejudice or self-esteem or quality of life in our models of the world, just because they're hard to put a number on, well, it's not just foolish, it's deeply unscientific. It means we're building faulty models, and that leads to some really bad decisions because we're ignoring real things that shape the system.
So what's her solution? We need to become quality detectors. I love that term. We have to be the ones who consciously notice and speak up for the things that matter but can't be measured. Things like justice, security, beauty, they don't just exist on their own. We have to actively speak for them and design systems that create them.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually take these huge ideas and use them in our day-to-day lives? Because these aren't just academic theories. Meadows meant for them to be practical guides for living a better, more effective life.
The single most important thing is to stay humble and always be a learner. In a world this complex, nobody has all the answers. The way we learn is by treating our actions like little experiments. You try something, you watch what happens, you admit when you are wrong. Meadows called it error embracing, and then you adjust. That's the real cycle of learning.
So, here's what you can actually do. Start paying attention to how information moves around you, in your family or at your job. Try using some systems language and just see how it changes the conversation. With every decision, make a point to ask what's really important here, beyond the numbers. And most of all, see every single action as a chance to learn something new.
So to wrap this all up, the art of living in a complex world isn't about finding some single magic solution. It's about developing a new way of being.
By honoring information, using our language carefully, valuing quality over quantity, and staying humble, we're giving ourselves the actual tools to create healthier, more resilient systems all around us.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Consider your work, your community, even your own family. What's one system in your life that you could start to improve right now, simply by changing how information is shared? The answer might just be the first step on a really amazing journey.